And joining us now for our regular Friday night chat is economics correspondent Stephen Long. Stephen, we just heard Laura Tingle and George Megalogenis talking there about the political outlook. What sort of economic outlook does this new minority government face?
At the moment, Lee, it's looking pretty good. We had the Reserve Bank say after its monetary policy decision this week that growth is about trend, that the inflation is within the target band, and the uncertainty overseas is certainly staying its hand in terms of rates rises. Plus the unemployment rate, 5.1%, we had a very impressive 53,000 plus full-time jobs added on the official estimate from the ABS in the month of August. That's 11 of the past 12 months. We've added full-time jobs to the economy. Looking good, but offshore there are enormous risks, and you'd have to say that it's looking pretty shaky offshore.
Well, what are those risks and what are the threats offshore?
European growth, it's been rebounding, it's been looking okay on the numbers, although the composition's been weak. Now that, and the Reserve Bank acknowledged that this week, is set to weaken because the austerity measures will weaken it. The US growth has been looking pretty shaky and weak. The composition has been very weak, with inventories of building up of stock driving it, very weak consumption. Lending is still constrained. And so we've got the possibility of growth stagnating in the two major economic blocks outside of Asia, which is still looking fine. And then there's the banking system. There's still enormous problems undisclosed in the banking system.
Well, the Wall Street Journal, I think, had a story today with the European banks understating their exposure to sovereign debt.
Yeah, the piece by the Wall Street Journal was very good, but it wasn't surprising because the stress tests that were done on the European banks were not seen as credible by many, many people in the markets, and people who've actually looked at the detail, which is what the Wall Street Journal did, have found that it's understating exposure to sovereign debt by tens of billions, possibly more. And so that's one problem. But the other problem is that the rules on reporting were deliberately relaxed for banks in Europe and the United States. And in Europe in particular, there's an unknown quantum of exposure to debt in the private sector. Now, pretty much any risk, any shock could bring this all undone. So it's going to be interesting times.
Interesting indeed. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Stephen.
See you.